So my question to you, Neale, if you understand what I just communicated to you, what happened? What was that?
I feel from my experience, not from my theorizing, but from my direct experience, that the essential essence of your father simply communicated directly with you, with you, with you, with you, with you.
All right, welcome everybody to episode 2 of Cast Your Light Revelations, where I'm so honored and happy to welcome Neale Donald Walsch, amazing author, written 39 books on contemporary spirituality and its practical application in everyday life, including the 9-book Conversations with God series that I've spoken about before. You know, his titles have been translated in 37 languages. That's how popular his readings are, and you'll hear from him in all about that. His latest book is The God Solution, published in December 2020. I'm happy to say I'm one of the first person that picked it up on Audible. I don't know if that's something you can check, Neale. I remember when it came out, I got the notification. I was so excited. And just an amazing, amazing author. I'm so honored to have you, Neale. So one of the intentions of this podcast, why I began, is basically because I love hearing people talk about what they're passionate about, right? Like what other kind of conversation do you want to have about, except for something that's someone that's passionate about what they're talking about? So the first question I have is, who is Neale Donald Walsch?
Boy, that's a question I've been asking for the past 80 years. And every morning when I wake up, I have to answer that question with my life lived. So, when you ask who is Neale Donald Walsch, I have to almost ask you, you mean today?
Precisely. I love that response.
So, because, I can't even hardly believe some of the things I actually have done in my life. And also, KJ, to be honest, I can hardly believe some of the things that I haven't done, that I wanted to do or wish now, as I look back over my life, that I had done, or think that I should have or ought to have done. So, my whole life is a mixture. It's funny you should begin with asking that question, because yesterday morning, really, I was lying in bed, sleeping in a little bit late. It was a Sunday morning, and I was sleeping in. I had no particular reason to have to get up early, and I was going over in my whole my whole mid-morning nap, my entire life. I was just, for some reason, I was not my childhood, but from the time I was a young man, around 18 or 19, until today, I was going through every one of the, mistakes I made, the things I did well, what I did, what I wouldn't do again, and all the rest of it. I was reviewing all of that for no apparent reason, and now you opened this program with that question,
isn't it?
Yeah, who am I? So it's a really good question. I guess in the end, I'm the sum total of all of my victories, all of my defeats, all of my ideas, all of my beliefs, all of my misunderstandings, all of my awarenesses. But honestly, if I had to give you a metaphysical answer, I would say I'm pure love, and I simply haven't known it for most of my life.
Yes, sir. I can absolutely, that resonates with me as we just spoke earlier before we began here. 100%. And it's funny because I chose that question specifically because I've read all of your work and I know what you're passionate about. And I know that the experience you've had in your life, just from the documentary alone to the movie. So the way I look at it is like, I think in life we have these experiences, good and bad, and you have to take it as being a part of yourself. You can't discount the bad, and you certainly don't discount the good because it's a learning experience and everything. You gain wisdom from acknowledging quote unquote failures. I don't like the word failure. One of the things I say in my book is I have not ever failed anything. I've been temporarily defeated, learned from it, and gone out to be successful more times than I can remember. But I have not ever and will not ever fail anything. And neither will you, because I won't allow you to. And that's to my audience, right? So basically, what that's saying is that acknowledge the failure, but right, you see it as temporary defeat. And what does that do? It empowers you because it's a temporary thing where most people see failure as if you look at the word failure in the dictionary, what does that mean? It literally means to stop, right? If you look up the word failure in the dictionary, it literally says it means to stop. So it's just an interesting culmination of how all that worked. And I think back about my experience in the Marine Corps. We spoke earlier about that and how I was able to touch the lives of these Marines and get so intimate in their lives. Like a leader, in my mind, there's leaders and there's servant leaders. And then you can be intrusive in either way, but it depends the method which you choose to use to be intrusive. Is it a nurturing intrusive, or is it authoritarian type intrusive type of leadership style? And I think as we spoke of earlier, with my absence of having a father around, I had some good, role models. Don't get me wrong, I had two great brothers that were always there for me. But I think absent of that father role model, it kind of helped me say, okay, do I go into this and act like the guy didn't have a father growing up and didn't have lessons learned that I feel cheated because I never got? Negative. Let me pull in the good and cast my light onto those that I feel needed. And I was able to do that throughout my career. And it's just been a blessing because it reverberates back to you and the light shines right back to you.
It's fascinating you should say that, KJ, because in the book of Communion with God, I was told that there are 10 illusions of humans, illusions that we live by, that we live into, that we think are very real. And the first illusion that I was told in life is that failure exists. And I'm told in Communion with God, there's no such thing as failure. There is only that which brings you ultimate benefit. And as you move forward in the process of your own soul's evolution.
Yeah.
So when you're saying that, I'm sitting here listening to that going, wow, he's hearing the same voice I'm hearing.
And I think we're all connected. We're all connected to this divine presence, this wholeness, this oneness. And it took me a long time to figure it out because I was raised Catholic, by the way, right? So Irish, my mother was Irish, very strict Catholic, but then again, she wasn't really present in the church, but you have that influence, right? And I think, and one of the things I love about your books is that it's the spiritual perspective of it, right? So I was raised as a Catholic, kind of moved away from the Catholic Church, took a journey of spirituality journey, trying to figure out what is religion? What really is it? Because you have this religion saying this thing, this religion saying that thing. The stories sound similar. So is it just a way of life? And I kind of came to a point where I discovered, so religion's a way of life. It's a way of life you choose. You're not born a Catholic. You're not born a Christian. You're not born with the religion. I know there's 100. How many are there again, Neale?
4,237.
4,002 exactly of actual religion that we have on this planet. But what I did was I took the four major ones: Islam, Christianity. But I read the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran. And I took all four of those stories and I kind of put them together into one song. I don't even call it a story because it's a beautiful song. If you actually read, if you take the time to care enough to read the books and understand the story that those books are telling, it's a beautiful song, is what it is. So I took that and I started to lead my life with those core values, as we say in the Marine Corps, of what those books are telling us. And it's just such a beautiful story. And as I took that lifestyle, I saw things changing. I felt lighter. I felt like I was glowing, and I felt like I was attracting people into my life. Like the law of attraction, does this. I just started attracting these individuals into my life that just helped me get to where I am.
And of course, the Jewish tradition, which you did not mention in your list of
the Torah.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. I didn't catch it. Yeah, those four major spiritual pathways, and many, many other pathways as well. But what's fascinating is that they're all saying essentially the same thing. They're just
Neil,
saying
that's
it,
exactly what I found, and it was beautiful.
just saying it in different ways.
Exactly. It's this beautiful message that helped me understand. Okay, so it's a way of life. So how do I choose my way of life?
But you know what? Here's one thing that I thought that I still imagine that most of the religions of the world uh, have left out. See, I don't think that religions are wrong. Some people who've read my books, they tell me that they think I'm making religion wrong. My books don't make religion wrong. They simply say that I think that our religions are simply incomplete.
Yes,
It,
absolutely.
it, it feels
Absolutely.
like, you know what it feels like to me, KJ? It feels like we're like children who have learned how to add and subtract, and we think that's all there is to mathematics. And then we wake up one day and go, oh, I see. There's trigonometry. There's algebra. Oh, there's higher math. Oh my God, there's more to this than I thought there was. So
Exactly.
I think that we are like children who have learned how to, understand that there maybe is a higher power, but we have no idea beyond that we can all agree on.
Mm,
And that's what the God solution offers, which is an idea that we can all agree on,
exactly. Exactly.
which is how about if we just redefine God? What if we decide that God is simply definable by two simple words? But the redefinition that I offer in the God solution is a contradiction of the major underlying message of most of the world's religions. It's a direct contradiction of the theology of most religions, because as you know, most of the world's religions tell us that God loves us,
Yes,
but
sir.
that if we don't do what God asks and demands of us,
Mm,
we will in fact be judged, condemned, and punished. And the new definition of God says, no, actually, God does not judge, condemn, and punish anyone.
I believe
And it's simply not true.
that. Mhm.
And so, but that's, a tremendous contradiction of virtually every religion on the face of the earth.
It's a major rub against exactly. It really is. And the way I've always correlated is like as I've read the books and I consume the knowledge within those four books, the four major that we discussed. Uh, I saw and referred to a lot of individuals, priests, imam, whatever religious leader I could find. And I always found that there was some piece of the words of man being kind of weaved into that story. And I think a lot of the things where we see, because when I think of God, I think of this beautiful, like I say, the lightest light, the warmest warmth, pure love. I mean, love with a capital L in bold letters. And I can't imagine any love like that having any type of condemnation on anybody for anything.
And perhaps also wearing, a sweatshirt with white hair and white beard, and
Very close description.
often wearing a pair of glasses.
Some
And
portholes, exactly.
yeah, so yeah, I can.
To me, it's beautiful. And like for me, I not just because I'm a Marine, I fear nothing. If there's one thing I could say I quote unquote fear would be to not serve his purpose that he's given me. That's really the only fear. And that's more of a I wouldn't even call it a fear, but it's the closest to what we call fear. Because one of the things I say in my book, and I might have introduced it to you before, I don't see love and fear as opposites. I don't see that. What I see is this, Neil. I see you have you have fear, right? And love, right? And what happens for me, if you see it as opposites, this happens. So what I see is I take those two ideas, just say love and hate, however you want to call it. So here you have hate, right? Which is the lowest degree of love in my mind. And you have love, which is absolute absence of hate. There's no absence. And what I do is I open my hands and I take those two ideas and I flip it this way. And then what do you have? You have a spectrum, just like beautiful music and color, right? It's a spectrum is what it really is. To me, there really are no opposites. They're not opposites. But when you look down here and you say you hate something or you actually fear it, right? I hate spiders. You fear spiders. I hate this. You actually fear it. It's the lowest degree of love in my mind. Maybe I'm off here, but this is how I see it. And through my religious journey and these people I've
Well,
experienced,
I think you're
it's like a
amazingly.
spectrum.
I find you to be amazingly accurate uh, only because, of course, I agree with you. So, of course, I would say you're accurate. But what Conversations with God told me is essentially the same thing, that fear and love are the same emotion, simply expressed at different levels in different ways. If we didn't love anything, we'd fear nothing. If you didn't love your life, you wouldn't fear death.
Mm.
If and if I didn't love this new technology, I wouldn't fear that someone's going to steal it if I leave it on my table at the restaurant when I'm going to use the restroom.
Exactly.
If I didn't love anything, I would fear nothing.
Hmm.
Therefore, fear is an announcement and an expression of what I love. It's
Mm.
really quite simple, and you've put it in an interesting way. Yeah, fear is simply an expression of love. But I have a wonderful acronym, FEAR, feeling excited and ready.
Awesome. I saw that. I saw that somewhere. I think on your one of your posts. I saw that, Neil. I remember seeing that and being like, wow, how do you take something that most people would cast their eyes away from, fear, correct? Or run
Yeah.
away from and turn into something so beautiful. You're great with the acronyms. I love
Well,
that.
because it occurred to me that I felt that way when I was around 9 or 10 years old, standing in line at the roller coaster at the county fair.
Mm,
I heard all the kids screaming and hollering as the roller coaster was going by, and I thought, oh my God, do I want to get on that ride? Do I really want to get on that ride? I was feeling excited and ready. But
mm,
I didn't know whether I wanted to do it or not. But I gave him my 15 cents in those days
absolutely.
to get on the roller coaster, and I've been on the roller coaster of life ever since. But I decided that fear is simply the experience of feeling excited and ready for what is next to come.
That's an outstanding way to look at it. That's a way to turn something. I don't like the word problem. Like I don't. I've never liked that word problem. One memories would come to me, or even in my civilian life. I've been retired for 10 years. I did 20 years, so it was fully ingrained in the Marine Corps. So that was my other way of life, a very hard ingrained way of life. It's not just the military; it's the Marine Corps. So I remember Marines go, "Hey, Gunny, we got a problem." I'd be like, "Problem?" And they quickly learned that when they turn that problem, because when you hear the word problem, you want to ball your fists. But for me, they always knew that it was a challenge, because a challenge puts their hands open and reaches out for a solution. And that's the way I would kind of read it to them and help them understand. And as we did that, we just learned that like problems didn't exist. You acknowledge it as I'm not talking about guys shooting at you. Like I'm talking about just everyday stuff. That's a different type of problem that could be looked at as a challenge as well. But it's just kind of like, I don't know, I'm not like some Mr. Positivity, but I believe that through the law of attraction, through Rhonda's work, I mean, that's where I met you. That when I say that, I mean virtually met you. Um, it's life changing. It really is. I mean, like I said earlier, I had very difficult circumstances growing up, and there was a choice I had to make. Do I want to continue that cycle, or do I want to just convert it? And I think it's service in the Marine Corps. The day that I earned the title Marine, like I say, they turn you into a ball of clay, right? And they just break you down. And it's a beautiful thing that they do. And but what they do, they don't just break you down and leave you there. They build you up into something beautiful. They give you this confidence and this acknowledgement and this brotherhood for life. That's one of the greatest things. I think that's one of the things I felt like I needed. So when I received that through service in the Marine Corps, it was just something so beautiful. And
I have a
it
friend. Well,
continues.
my best friend is a former Marine as well, a man I've known now for 30 years.
What's a
And
former Marine? I know
exactly.
former Marines.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. But he's a wonderful
I'm not trying
guy.
to challenge you or nothing. I'm just saying.
No, I totally get the analogy. Yeah, I get it. But he tells a story of how he was in a unit where they had certain kinds of secret information, classified information,
Yes, sir.
of a certain kind, and he had read the order from the general that said no one is to be allowed into this unit without written authorization from someone, right? So now he tells the story about how one night he was asked to replace a guy who was on guard duty, but a guy became really sick. So they told him to replace this guy. He said, okay. So he went out there and he's standing guard, and the general shows up, pulls up in a big
Whoopsie
limousine or whatever,
daisy.
jumps out of the car. He
Wow.
starts to go into the unit, and my friend steps in front of him and says, "Sorry, sir, you can't go in." He said, "No, you don't understand. I'm the general. I gave the order." He said, "No, no, the order says no one is allowed in here without written consent in advance."
Wow.
He said, "Yeah, but I'm the guy who wrote the order." And the my friend, the Marine, said, "Sorry, you're not going in there." And the general said, "Son, I'm going in. I'm the general. You're the whatever he was, corporal or lad, whatever he was."
Probably.
And my friend took his pistol out, took his firearm out,
Oh, wow.
and pointed it at the general and said, "Sir, you're going to have to go through me in order to get in there. My orders are to keep everyone out, no exceptions."
Sounds like a Marine to me.
And the general said, okay, young man, relax, everybody relax. I'm leaving. Gets in his car and orders the driver to get him out of there, and drives away. Calls him into headquarters a couple of weeks later and gives him a medal, pins a new. He upgraded him to the
Like
next
a rank.
Yeah, he gave him a new rank. He said, "You did exactly what you were ordered to do, and you didn't even let me intimidate you." He said, "That's the kind of soldier I want standing next to me."
Awesome. That's an awesome one.
Yeah, he tells me that story all the time.
Wow.
So,
Amazing.
yeah, but he turned out to be an employee of mine for 25 years. And whenever I asked him to do something that he didn't want to do, he would say, "Don't make me stop you."
Awesome. Little reminder for you.
I said, "Okay, I get it. Relax. Everybody relax."
Nice. Little reminder for you. That's usually helpful, huh?
Yeah, but
Wow.
he's a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Marines are unique. Very unique. Both my sons are Marines, actually. They
Oh,
follow
darn.
footsteps. So I
Wow.
decided to make a transition to the Marine Corps. You know, this is the most difficult branch in the military. U.S. military, some would argue, it is. Both of them made a decision to join my beloved Corps after me. There's no greater honor than that. That's like, it's cool to be able to say, yeah, my kids went to the same college I went to. The kids went to this, works the same job as me, but to join the Marine Corps, I got to tell you, that was incredible for them to.
Wow. I totally get it.
Yeah, and it kind of like, I'm not a selfish person, honestly, but for that moment, I was like, wow. So it's leadership by example is what it is. I truly believe that's what it is. Like, you want to do what's the best for your kids. You want to do your children, but aren't we all God's children? Aren't we all like, you want to do what's best for everybody? So it's like, I'm looking at them and they do this amazing thing. They're already done. It's been done with. And I'm looking back, I'm like, wait a second. So you have my son to join the military. I'm a Marine. My dad was a World War II veteran. And then I found out my grandfather was a World War I Army veteran. So it's almost like this cycle.
Wow.
It's a good cycle. It's a legacy. It's an incredible legacy if you think about it. I mean, I didn't even know about that whole legacy behind that. So
How
to
long
me,
have you?
any young child, any young kid in this country that puts up their right hand and says, "I'll take an oath for up to including my life for this country." Maybe I'm being biased, but that's pretty awesome. And these days, is the way I see society's changing a little bit. You might have noticed. Um, I don't think it's the right reasons anymore.
How long have your sons been in the service?
Oh, they're in and out already. 5
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But definitely, yeah. So I sent something earlier. I wanted to review with you. So, as I told you, I didn't have a father growing up, had great brothers, great family, very good family. So all that presence was there as far as the leadership and the mentorship and stuff like that. But so I lived my life, continued through the Marine Corps. And basically what happened was before my mother's passing, we'd have a lot of conversations. We got really close before her passing. Remember, like I said, she wasn't really there. She was huge alcohol problem and some drug problems. Bless her
God
soul.
bless her.
God bless her. I know, and Neale, it's like I get emotional because it's like I was so angry. Like, how could you do these things? But when I took time to understand, understand why she is that way and understanding, a very special person, I won't say her name, taught me a long time ago that you listen to understand. You don't listen to respond. And as I would listen and consume the information she would give me and we understood, it opened up this conduit where she had finally granted me, your dad wasn't around, not because he didn't want to be around you, but because she was kind of in a position where she had to keep him away because in the early 70s, not being married, they weren't married. So it was kind of like a bad conversation piece for our neighborhood in New York. Then I found, because the 3 times I did meet this man, he exuded fatherly virtue. from the way I defined it, the way I would look at his father. And I always knew, and every time I saw him, I always knew like I could see it in him, like this man loves me. And I never doubted it. You know what I mean? It's just, why would I? So I decide, okay, so now that I know that he wanted to be around, let me go be around him some more. But then I had found out that he had passed away. It was too late to go see him and forgive him for the things that I thought he was doing or not doing. Right. So I'm like, okay, well, let me go to his gravesite. So on July 3rd, 2017, I went to his gravesite. And this is the part I want to talk to you about with the whole conversations with God and how it impacted my life. Um, so I get there, I happen to have a working position there in Jersey for the week. I was there for the week in Jersey. And I found out where he was buried at. So I went to the gravesite. It was a veteran's gravesite. And wasn't sure where he was buried. I'm like, oh, how hard could it be to find a man? I mean, it's not that big. It's not like it's Arlington. It's not some huge gravesite. It was a local city one. So I get there. There was no one there to help me. I didn't really know where it was, so I started walking around looking. Right, and I'm looking. I just literally did military style, row by row, looking each headstone, looking at each headstone, finding my father's name. And then I did what I usually do, and it was getting late. I had to head back to work, and I started rushing. And what happened next was the conduit of what made me find God. And I know it. And it was either God. Like to me, there's three. I've always had this with this way of life I've had. I'm so close to God, but I've always had these three ideas. It's either the universe talking, it's God talking, or it's your inner psyche kind of bringing forth something that God's already embedded within us as human beings. I believe that everything that can be known or will be known is already embedded in yourself. It's just a matter of having the willingness to be vulnerable enough to uncover that knowledge, and it rises to the top, if that makes sense. So I'm sitting there walking, right? And all of a sudden I hear this loud sound. I remember there was like a little like a maintenance shed in the corner, right? So I hear this noise and I look up and I'm still walking, kind of like scanning as I'm walking. And all of a sudden, as my left foot struck the floor, I remember I heard my son like that. And I get emotional, Neil, because I know what I heard. I heard something. Now, did I hear it in my mind? I mean, obviously, my father's voice can't emanate through the ground. So I look back to where I hear the sound, and that's where his gravestone was. It was literally there. Like I would walk, I was rushing. It's almost like God was nudging me saying, you better never rush ever again. This is your last opportunity to learn not to rush. So I'm walking, I look down, and I see it, and I literally just, I can't put words into it. I fell to the ground, and like this weight of 1 billion pounds is on my body, on my shoulders. And as I sat there, forgiving my father for all these misconceptions and this dark, hopeless darkness that I had my entire life, suddenly the weight was lifted. And I felt, as I call it, the lightest light and the warmest warmth across my entire body. And I literally felt an embrace. I can't explain to you with words what it felt like, but I think you may get an idea. It actually felt like something or someone was embracing me. And as that happened, I just felt like it got really light. And then the next thing I know, I'm kind of out. I kind of like went out a little bit. And then as I came back to, I just I just let out this like a breath of air. And that's when it happened. Across my entire body, I just felt this warmest warmth and this brightest light that I can't even explain to you. My purpose, and I believe that my purpose in life is to somehow find a way to share that feeling with others. Because it was just this wholeness that was always not there. It was this, and it was forgiving to remember. I forgave him to remember because I had a choice to make. I could forgive him and forget, which I don't believe in forgiving and forgetting anymore after this experience. I forgave to remember. What I was able to do with that experience was form a new memory of my father. So now when I remember him, the forgiveness has been done. I remember that moment, and it's the most beautiful warmth I can feel right now. I can feel it across my whole body right now as I speak about it. So my question to you, Neale, if you understand what I just communicated to you, what happened? What was that?
I feel from my experience, not from my theorizing, but from my direct experience, that the essential essence of your father simply communicated directly with you. And I think that the element of life that some people call God then filled you with the primal energy that you've been describing, that embracing experience that you've described here. I think that you were first touched in a very real way, nothing you imagined. Your mind wasn't making it up. You weren't imagining it.
Oh, for sure.
And that you were touched in a very real way by the essential essence, I want to say by the soul of your father, which of course still lives. Death is not.
Yes, the energy.
Death is not real. Death, in terms of the ceasing of our existence, is not real. We simply change addresses.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think that he spoke to you directly, and then that the presence of divinity that he brought with him when he spoke to you directly enveloped you, and literally, to use your own word, embraced you. And the reason that I say that comes from my experience, not from my theorizing, is that I had almost an identical experience in my life. It turned out it wasn't my father, but it was one of the best friends I ever had in my life, who left his body at a relatively young age. I think he was 43 or 44 years old when he left. And I went and I didn't know that he had passed on until it was too late for me to be with him prior to his departure. So I didn't get a chance to say my goodbyes. And I just wanted to say my goodbyes. I wasn't really a spiritual or religious person way before conversations with God entered my life. I'm just a guy working in the world. I mean, I was in the newspaper business, for God's sake, very hard-nosed reporter. But I wanted to visit this guy's grave. I had the exact same experience you described. I had no way of knowing. I went to his family told me that he was, buried in this particular cemetery. Like you said, it was a city cemetery.
You've never shared this story with me, Neale. So how is this happening?
No, and so I'm walking. I'm doing the same thing. I'm walking up and down the aisles trying to find. I just wanted to, and I couldn't. But I was frustrated because I had been there about maybe 20 or 25 minutes. I thought, well, there aren't that many gravestones here. Why can't I find? And then I heard a voice say to me, "Over here."
Wow.
And I turned to my left, and there over a small bluff was a gravesite, which I couldn't see from where I was, but I went up the small bluff, and doggone it if it wasn't his gravesite. And my blood ran cold. I thought, no, that's not possible. That's not possible that he actually called me over there.
Yeah.
But I stood there and I began to weep, there was no one around. And I thought, okay, let the tears flow. And I'm this guy weeping in front of his grave saying, hey, Jay, his name was Jay. And I said, hey, Jay, thanks for calling me over. Thanks for giving me a chance to say goodbye. I just want you to know how much you meant to me. And I told him how much he meant to me in my life and how much he had given to me and how much I had learned from him and so forth. He was, in fact, my boss at a job that I had. But he was a very wonderful guy, and he was more than a boss to me. He was a friend. In any event, I'm having this conversation, and I had also the exact same feeling. When I turned around and walked down that bluff to get back to my car, I'm also feeling overcome, like chocolate syrup poured over a glop of vanilla ice cream. That I just felt like that chocolate syrup was flowing all over me. I was the vanilla ice cream. And I just felt that's the only way I could describe it. Just a feeling that has just been poured over me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got to my car and I thought, well, that must be what it's like to get in touch with all of it, with all there
Exactly.
is. So when you started describing this experience to me, I thought, okay, this guy's either reading my mind or we've had
Maybe I
this.
am. Ooh.
Yeah, yeah, we've had
No,
this
but I
in.
mean, Neil, when you just told me that, it was like maybe this is what this meeting means. Like we're all connected. You know that we're all connected.
Yeah, of course. What is your
It's
book
just
called? Did you just finish?
Cast Your Light is the first one.
And this
Amazing, amazing epilogue on that book. The whole it's a 10-year manuscript. It's dedicated to my Marines. It was written because my Marines used to always hear me speak, and they always say, "Gunny is." I'm a gunnery sergeant when I retired. Gunny is the nickname for my rank. Gunny, you need to write a book. Gunny, you need to write a book. So I just started writing stuff down, like literally on paper, emails, and just collecting information. And I just took all that knowledge and I started doing all these. What is my legacy for these Marines? Because when I leave active duty, which I did 10 years ago, what am I going to leave behind for them to help continue to help them and continue to help every single Marine, now including my two own sons? But however, John D. Martini, I think you know who he is, and now we're having a late night discussion. And we talked about how he's like, Kevin, this this message is for more than just Marines. You've poured the message into for humanity. And as I read it back, I realized, okay, yeah, that's kind of what it is. And I think that's what it's meant to be and always meant to be. And John's like, you may want to consider retitling this, because it's not just a gift for the Marines. You have your dedication for the Marines. They're going to know you wrote it for your Marines. And the one part about the experience with my father didn't tell you about was like when you know this light was given to me and this warmth. I would always pray and I would think to myself, okay, so now what? What do I do with this? And I'd hear, and I would hear, release it, let it go. As I prayed, I would hear this. I would actually hear it in my heart and my whole body, my whole presence. And then one day I'm like, what do you mean release it? Cast your light, my son, I heard. And the book became Cast Your Light, the title of the book. It was originally called Your Corps because it was about the Marine Corps and basically the lifestyle of the Marine Corps and how to take, all the positive things about it and understand that you own this title, but you also, owe the world something with your greatness and keep taking those footsteps towards your greatness. And with that, you develop relationships with others and you become the greatest version of yourself. So it became Cast Your Light, taking a full 30-inch step towards the greatest version of you. John inspired that. John D. Martini. You remember him from The Secret, correct?
From the
So
what?
from The Secret, in the Secret documentary,
Yeah, I
Dr.
don't.
John D. Martini.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
familiar
I'm not
with.
sure how much y'all could, he was in this documentary as well.
Yeah, okay,
But
fair enough.
so Easter Sunday. So I had I may have to edit this out, but we'll see. I had a deal with Archway Publishing. I don't know if you heard of them. It's a vanity publishing platform, right? I mean, it may not. They're a sister company of Simon and Schuster. It's like a vanity publishing. Because me being a Marine, I would always say, I'm not going to find a publisher. A publisher's going to find me. I'm not going to find sound familiar. I'm not going to find a publisher. A publisher's going to find me. I'm not going to, right? I'd say this the whole time. This past Easter Sunday, I had made the decision to divorce my relationship with Archway. And I'm sitting in the car listening to a podcast, just like a inspirational type podcast. And I look in the rearview mirror and I say, I'm not going to find a publisher. A publisher is going to find me. So I just founded Cash Your Light Publishing. I'm publishing my book and the 5 other manuscripts that I'll be continuing on as books. The second book is called It Is Up to You. It's basically inspired by Marcus Aurelius's meditations, but it's my meditations and basically a daily thing, 365 lessons for people to learn and consume. But this isn't about me. This is about you, Neale. So I'm so happy you were able to join us. But what do you think? I mean, is that divinity in itself right there? I mean, I'm sitting there saying, I'm not going to find a publisher, a publisher's going to find me. And I'm not struggling because, again, I wasn't really looking, honestly. I was just writing and putting my heart into this book, a 10-year manuscript, 96,000 words. It's my heart and soul in that book. It's my Marines inspired it. And it's so beautiful that I'll be able to take the inspiration from that relationship with them and hopefully share it with a larger crowd, meaning humanity. I truly believe that's who's this message is to be delivered to. So yeah, it's like I'm just sitting there and it happened. that and just said, okay, I have the technological prowess. I do IT. I've been on IT for years. I'm a pretty good writer, I think. um, it's just been an amazing journey. I think that's been the greatest part about it is the journey and just the little relationships I've forged and just learning about it and stuff. So, yeah,
I'm
look
very,
forward to it. Look forward.
I'm inspired by you, KJ. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. You're what I call an idea hero.
Hmm.
And
You're my titan of truth, brother. So there we go.
yeah,
One
we
of
need more idea heroes on the planet, and you're definitely one of them. So
absolutely
nice
yes.
going, and thank you for
Interesting way.
stepping into that.
That's an interesting way to put it. I love that. Love it. So I got one more question for you. You ready for this one?
I hope so.
Okay, it's a two-part question. Part one, what keeps you up at night? Part two, what can I and my viewers do to help you sleep better at night?
What keeps me up at night? Well, there are two things that keep me up at night. It's interesting because it's a divine dichotomy. One thing that keeps me up at night is that I don't feel I've done in my lifetime all that I could have done uh, in order to complete or move closer toward completion of the agenda of my soul. So I feel like, I haven't quite, done or even come close to doing all that I could have done. And I'm going to be 80 years old in a few months. So it's not like I have another 40 years ahead of me. So I feel like that keeps me up at night because time is running out. And I'm not sure I have enough time left to move closer to the completion of that agenda. And the other thing that keeps me up at night, I said there were two things that keep me up at night. The other thing is just the opposite of that I may think too much of myself, that I may think, oh, well, after all, you have written 39 books and
Exactly.
they have been read around the world and you are, Neale Donald Walsch and blah, 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 blah. And I get filled, so my fear, what keeps me up at night is that I get filled with too much of a thought of who I imagine myself to be, what I imagine myself to have in fact done to move toward the completion of the agenda of my soul. And that I'm frankly thinking too much of myself, as if I matter individually, as opposed to being simply a part of the whole. So what keeps me up at night is not thinking enough of myself and thinking too much of myself, almost in the same breath, sometimes in the same nightly dream. So then I wake up and I have to try to be present because what I realize is that I'm tossed around by all of my apprehensions. And I said, just get present. Just forget about everything. What you've done, what you think you should have done, what you think you shouldn't have done.
It's
forget about
moment.
all of it. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Just get right here in this moment. What's going on right now?
Absolutely. I mean, look at your legacy. I mean, it's about legacy. I think human beings by nature, we want to keep we want to have a legacy. And to me, it's like to have something like these books that you've written were incredible. That's your legacy. And I mean, what's the cutoff? How do you know what is the cutoff to your greatness? We're all in this pursuit of perfection. I believe we're all in this pursuit of perfection. I never want to reach it because we never will reach it. Perfection with a capital P. Only one entity has that type of perfection. But as long as you're on that journey to perfection, dare I say, even if you're on your deathbed and you're continuing that pursuit of perfection, you're conversing with folks and casting your light, dare I also say, I'm not trying to pitch my book. I literally mean that because you obviously know how to cast your light. You're good. You're good to go.
The answer to your second question is, what would I want to hear from others that would allay, that would respond to, what keeps me up at night. I guess what I want to hear from others is, well done.
I can tell you.
I have this dream, that when I do pass over, I'm going to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. Well done. And that's, and you know what? I told my whole family knows what I want on my gravestone. I've told everybody, if you have any control over it, I want this on my gravestone because people are going to be visiting that gravestone because, several million people, 15 million people by last count have read my books. So there'll be one or two visitors to that gravesite. Here's what I want them to see on my gravestone. 4 words. Now that was fun.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I
Now
can
that
tell
was
you,
fun.
well done, brother. I mean, I can tell you right now from one of your fans, well done. I mean, I would love to see your message reach more, and I'll do everything in my power to help make that happen. But when your moment does come, whenever this divine creator is, we'll be telling you well done in a way that I think will resonate through your entire soul and energy, which will still remain, obviously, as we spoke of earlier. Well done, brother.
Yeah, and I have to really get to a place where I can understand how I could have made the errors that I made in the first 35 or 40 years of my adult life. Because as I was told in conversations with God, understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master.
It's truly about understanding.
Yeah. Then you don't need to forgive.
Exactly.
What I love to say to congregations when I'm invited to talk in front of churches, which every so often I am, and I'll stand in the pulpit and I'll say, yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here on this particular day. And I've come here to share with you the message that God will never forgive you for anything. And the place goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Congregation, they're crossing their eyes. Some people actually get up out of their pews and walk out of the church, waving their hand behind me. They want nothing to do with me. And I said, well,
I
before
understand why.
yeah, I said, before you all leave, listen to what I have to tell you. God has no need to forgive us for anything because we cannot hurt, injure, damage, upset, anger, frustrate, annoy God in any way because God needs nothing, least of all from us.
Yes.
So would you be needing to forgive if you're holding a 6-month-old child? And I asked the congregation, how many of you have had the occasion to hold a beautiful baby in your arms at least once in your life? Almost every hand in the room goes up. Even those who've never had children of their own have had the experience of holding a baby in their arms at least once. I say, now imagine you're holding that baby in your arms, just enjoying and reveling in the purity and the wonder of its beautiful innocence. And in that moment, the baby has an unfortunate biological accident. What do you do? What do you say to yourself? It's okay, sweetheart, I forgive you. Of course not. You're pretty clear that forgiveness is not on the agenda. It's nothing to do with what's going on. You don't forgive something like that. You don't forgive a baby. And any more than God will forgive us for doing some things that we have no control over when we're acting like children.
Absolutely.
So forgiveness is not necessary. And I was told understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master. So I wrote that on my bathroom mirror. It's one of the few things I've done in my life. I just got a black magic marker, and up in the upper right-hand corner of my bathroom mirror, it says, understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master. And that allows me to confront everything in my life that I believe is being done or has been done to me, and to see it through the eyes of one who clearly understands how such a thing could have been possible. That doesn't mean I condone it, doesn't mean I agree with it, doesn't mean I hope that they repeat it, but it does mean that I can understand it.
Yes.
And speaking of Catholics, I think of Pope John the 23rd, God bless him, when he was shot by the guy in the motorcade in Rome, driving through the city, and the guy shoots him 6 times. And he went to the, unbelievably, he survived the 6 bullet holes. All the bullets hit him, every single one. And he survived. And he goes to the man's jail cell. And he said something quite extraordinary to the prisoner. He said to the prisoner, In nomine Patris Spiritus Sancto, Amen. He blessed the man who tried to kill him.
The man that tried to kill him, yes.
And the reporters who were all there, of course, the Pope can't take a step outside the Vatican without the press following him. So they were all over the place on the other side of the bars, of course, but they could hear what was going on. And they're saying to, Holy Father, why would you bless the men who tried to kill you? He said, oh, maybe you missed. Maybe you missed when this guy once said a couple of years ago, bless your enemies and pray for those who persecute you and do good to those who do you evil. And when a man slaps you on the right cheek, turn and offer him your left. And when a man steals your coat, give him your shirt as well.
Yeah.
And when a man demands that you walk 1 mile with him, go with him 20. And raise not your fist to heaven and curse the darkness not, but be a light unto the darkness, that you might know who you really are. And that all those whose lives you touch might know who they really are as well. Now, the prisoner,
the understanding.
The end of that story is that the prisoner and the Pope became pen pals. They were writing letters because the Pope asked the prisoner, why would you do that? He said, I'm not making, an argument here. I'm just wanting to know. Why would you do that? And the guy said, look.
I understand.
And he gave his reasons why he wanted to kill the Pope. He felt that the Catholic Church institutionally had done more to hurt his own religion than any other single institution in humanity's experience. The Pope said, I don't agree with your solution. I can't condone it. But from your point of view, I can understand how you would feel that way. They became pen pals, the Pope and the Vatican. It's a true story. I'm not making this up.
I've read it. Neil.
They wrote letters back and forth from the Vatican to the jail cell for years, until ultimately the Pope asked the civil authorities in Rome to grant the man a full pardon after 7 years of being in jail, which the authorities did. And they released him from jail. So it strikes me that understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master.
Well, I mean, forgiveness is a response to a mistake or something that went a different direction. So when you understand, like with my mother, when I took the time and forgave her as well, by the way, forgave her for what happened, and I understood why things were the way they are, forgiveness almost became unnecessary.
Yeah, almost pointless.
Yeah,
and also, and also, forgiveness is an announcement that we think that is the essence of who we really are, that we can be at our core level. Talk about our core level. It's an announcement that we think that we can be hurt, injured, damaged, or angered in any way.
Yes.
But of course, that's not possible at the core level of who we are.
Not at the core level.
And once we return to the essence of who we are, such an idea would be impossible for us to embrace. It's simply not true. Therefore, forgiveness is not necessary. Not only is it replaced by understanding, it's totally unnecessary, because nothing can hurt who I really am.
Beautiful, Neil. Beautiful. Well, I really want to thank you for joining me for this podcast. It's been an honor having you. I hope this will become a long-time relationship. I'll have you on again should you be willing to join. I'd like to see the evolution of as more people become familiar with your work, especially with the most recent book, that we need to get this message out. This is a very important message. I think since I transitioned back out of the military, I mean, we kind of live in tunnel vision, and I was in tunnel vision for 20 years, supporting and defending the Constitution, but the people who represents is what makes the Constitution, the citizens, right? And as I came out and became a product, and I always told myself that when I got out of the Marines, they don't care how well I shot or how fast I ran or how many medals I had or ribbons and all rank, like we spoke about earlier. It's what are you going to bring back out of the Marine Corps? What values will you bring into the civilian sector? And one of the things that I learned is that just our society needs some help. I mean, I see these dimly lit, I describe them as dimly lit, damaged halos and tattered wings that need some type of a solution. And I believe that your solution is the one. So again, thank you so much, Neale. I really look forward to having you again. Any last parting words? Mm. I
And
hear your
God's,
audiobook echoing in me as you say that.
yeah,
The way you said
God
with
says,
some conviction, and it was such a truth to me. It really was a truth with the capital T.
yeah.
It was, sir. Yes, sir.
So what she said to me was, Neale, it's really very simple. You think your life is about you, and your life has nothing to do with you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it.